All right, we're going to take a few minutes to review inversions. If you're well-versed in root position, first inversion, second inversion, you can move back and forth between these in different chords fluidly, especially here, in C, in F, in G. You can go from root position in C to an inversion in G. If you know all about that and you know why we need the inversions, feel free to skip this section. So let's talk about open and closed positions. A chord is a chord because of the notes it contains and not because of what order you play them in. So for instance, as long as I'm playing a C and an E and a G, I could call that a C chord. Doesn't matter if the C is on the bottom or not. So I could play like a C here and an E here and a G there. That's still a C chord. So there are two positions to consider for our discussion. There's open position and closed position. The first time you learn a chord, usually C major, you probably learned it in closed position, whether you knew it or not. C, E, G. So closed position means that from the root and going up the scale, we haven't skipped any parts of the chord. We've played each one as we came to them. So for example, if we took this third out and we put it up here to the E up here, this is now called an open position chord. Doing it this way means we've skipped a third and we've skipped a root that are both involved in the chord. It's not wrong to do it this way. In fact, it's beautiful. It's just another tool to add to your toolkit. So now let's review what an inversion is. Okay, so the concept of inversions is centered around closed position chords. So if this is a closed position, if I have a chord with 3 notes in it, then there are 3 different ways I can voice this chord in closed position. This is the first one. It's called root position. It's called root position because the root is on the bottom. Let's take the bottom note of this chord, in this case the root, and move it up an octave, but we'll keep the other 2 in place. So now we have a third on the bottom, and the fifth in the middle, and the root on the top. So this is called first inversion. And notice that we still call E the third and G the fifth. Okay, C is not called the root because it's on the bottom. Here, it's called the root because it's the note that we base the rest of the chord on. Doesn't matter if it's on the bottom, or on the top, or in the middle. When we move from root position to first inversion, we've changed what's called the voicing. Voicing a chord means putting the parts of the chord where we want them. So think of a choir. You have like basses, and then maybe you have tenors, and altos, and sopranos. So each voice will sing a different note. So you might have basses singing the root and tenors singing the third. Altos might sing the fifth. Sopranos might be doubling the root on top. Or if I changed it such that the basses were singing the third, and then the tenors the fifth, altos might be singing the root, sopranos the third. So then that could be said that I've changed the voicing of it, or I've voiced it in a different way. It's a different voicing. So this is one voicing, this is another voicing, same chord, C chord, C chord. All right, so from the first inversion, we can readily get to the second inversion. So we're going to repeat the process we did before. We were at root position, we took the bottom note, moved it up an octave. So now we're going to play these 3. We're going to play 1, 2, and 5 with our fingers, just because of the shape that it's in. Easier to put these 2 fingers here. 1, 2, 5. So now we're going to take the bottom note and move it up an octave. And now we're on what's called second inversion. And if we did it one more time, the G's on the bottom, it's going to go up an octave. And oh look, we're back at root position, an octave higher than where we started. So root, first, second, root. All right, so why do we have inversions? Why are inversions important? Well, many, many reasons. Firstly, wouldn't it be boring if the only way we could play the chords was in the root positions? I mean, imagine if I played C for a few beats, and and then G for a few beats. It would always sound like that. Instead, knowing my inversions, I can now go from root position C to like a first inversion in G like that. So now it might be. This way the G note stays on top, so your ear is not drawn from the G to the D as it was in the first example, but rather you hear the changes of the other notes, which is especially important when playing melodies in the piano. So our ears hear the top notes first. So if the melody is what you want us to hear, then you can't play anything above the melody. All the harmony and all the accompaniment has to go below. So like there's an old song, Good King Wenceslas, old Christmas tune. So here's the melody of it. So if I wanted to add chords to it, I couldn't do this. So what you're hearing there was, I'd have to take the chord and put it underneath. If the whole concept of inversions is new to you, or if you understand it, but your hands fumble with it a little, you want to spend some time practicing moving between inversions. And I've included several PDF downloads to guide you through the process. If you have trouble, post your questions in the Facebook group, and I'll be happy to help. So that wraps up our review of inversions. Next, we're going to review the Nashville numbers system.